It's Wednesday, November 18. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Carol Francis. The government will be directing $1 billion to address damages done to our road networks owing to recent heavy rains. According to the National Works Agency, just over 200 of our thoroughfares are in need of repairs after two major weather systems dumped inches of rainfall on the island between October and early November. Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced the road repair initiative on Tuesday in the House of Representatives.
This reason, Madam Speaker, why we have taken the decision to make funds available at both the national level and the constituency level to each member of Parliament to start the process of rehabilitation of some of the worst road conditions across the island. The government, Madam Speaker, has allocated through the National Works Agency $1 billion Jamaican dollars to be spent in very specific ways on improving driving conditions on some of the worst affected roadways.
Mr. Holness also detailed the breakdown for how the monies will be allocated to members of Parliament.
The program is structured as follows: patching, bushing of verges and overgrown drains, beautification, cleaning and sanitation, and drain and gully cleaning. So those are four areas. $7 million of the $15 million, Madam Speaker, must be spent on the patching of roads, and MPs will not have the option of spending less on this activity. Outside of the $7 million for patching, we are allocating $4 million for debushing, $2 million for beautification, which is really sanitation and the removal of garbage, and $2 million for drain cleaning or gully cleaning.
Logwood district is one of several communities in St. Thomas marooned as a result of torrential rains in October. The Atlantic hurricane season officially ends on November 30, but additional storms could develop beyond that date. The possibility of more rain have residents of Logwood district who are still marooned worried. Marlon Samuels explains.
Heavy rains caused the road leading into Logwood district to buckle and collapse. Since October 19, entry and exit to the community is on foot through a dry riverbed. It's a long, difficult journey that has to be navigated with skill and dexterity to prevent injury.
It's nearly a month now that I'm in St. Thomas and I'm unable. And to be honest with you, a long time I moved from country, I have to carry water from my head top.
I have to carry the load here, cross over, go up, cross over. No, I've already lost 2 sets of pair of shoes. How much more? What more are we going to do? We need help here in Logwood Peace.
Those with bicycles are a little more fortunate. The residents are concerned that another heavy, sustained rainfall could further reduce their ability to get in and out of the community if the now dry riverbed becomes filled with water.
We're not getting no attention in here, right? No attention we're getting in here, boss. So I'm asking you to please come and do something for us, right? It's too long now, it's too long.
They are hopeful that plans to erect a bridge will be fast-tracked. So too the repair of the roadway. For the news on PBCJ, I am Marlon Samuels.
The government is stepping up measures to ensure the continued care for people living with non-communicable diseases. A multi-million-dollar pilot program was recently signed with 4 private health facilities to provide primary care to non-COVID-19 clients with diabetes and hypertension. Simone Absalom reports.
Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the program will help public health centers to focus on critical cases and the pandemic response.
The significant demand that the pandemic response has placed on the resource of our health services has meant that other types of diseases, and particular non-communicable diseases and other ailments, have not received the attention that they require in terms of treatment and care. So in this pilot, some 5,000 patients who are on the register of the health centers will benefit from this partnership. Of those, approximately 50% of patients have their conditions controlled. Potentially, 1,000 beneficiaries can be added to the program as we identify more private providers. So we're starting with the 4 persons who are here, or 4 entities, but the intention, given the progress of the program, would be to expand over time.
Dr. Tufton says the program will see local health centers identify eligible members of the NCD's community and refer them to the participating private practitioner to continue their care.
The public-private partnership for the provision of services within the 2 areas will pilot initially in 8 health centers and 4 private practices in Clarendon, St. Anne, and 2 in Kingston and St. Andrew. Patients on the diabetes and hypertension registers within these facilities will be selected based on a predefined inclusion criteria and will be referred out for treatment and care to the private doctors. The local health center will identify the eligible members of the community and refer them to the private practitioner to continue their care. The health center, of course, will ensure that communication is maintained with the private practitioner and the necessary protocols in place for patients to be referred back to the public health system if the need arises.
The health minister explains that persons living with NCDs have a higher risk of critical illness as a result of COVID-19. For example, persons living with diabetes.
People with diabetes, for example, are up to 3 times more likely, according to what I'm told by the experts, to have severe symptoms or die from COVID-19, 3 times. Hypertension, cardiovascular disease, increase the odds for severe COVID-19 by 2.3, 2.9, and 3.9 times respectively. In other words, the chances of your dying having hypertension or cardiovascular disease are significantly increased if you get the COVID virus.
The health ministry has assured that patients will still be able to access services from the National Health Fund NHF DrugServe.
So this partnership is not asking people to leave the health center where they would not pay to go to the private practitioners and pay. This will be a cost that will be borne by the government, and the patients will have access, despite the prescriptions being written by these private providers, to our DrugServe window through the NHF, or administered by the NHF. So they will neither pay to see the doctor or will they pay to access their drugs.
And persons will still be able to access diagnostic or monitoring tests free of cost. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Simone Absalom.
Time now for the latest COVID-19 update from the Health and Wellness Ministry.
The island recorded 2 COVID-19 related deaths over the last 24 hours, bringing the overall tally to 233. The deceased are an 80-year-old female from Kingston and St. Andrew and a 90-year-old male from Westmoreland. 60 new cases were reported on Monday, bringing the overall total to 10,019. There are now 4,278 active cases. 31 recoveries were also recorded, bringing the number of recovered cases to 5,369. At this time, There are 88 persons currently hospitalized, 14 moderately ill and 6 critically ill. Melvin Pennant, PBCJ News.
Dog owners found guilty under the Dog Liability for Attacks Act could be fined up to $3 million. This was one of the 17 amendments to the bill passed in the House of Representatives Tuesday. If a dog owner fails to pay the fine, they will be imprisoned.
Firstly, we would like to delete the definition of attack and substitute the following definition. Attack means any circumstance which results in injury instead of what is presently there. So we are going to remove the present definition of attack and put in its place attack means any circumstance which results in injury. And also in the definition of injury, we delete the definition of injury and substitute the following. Injury means injury to an individual and includes death, disease, or any impairment of an individual's physical or mental condition. And B in Section 5 also includes injury to any animal.
Under the law, civil liability is valid if a dog causes injury in a public place.
Clause 8, I would just like to, in subsection 1B and 1C, by inserting next after the words $are, the words, open quotation, in default of payment of the fine. So in both subsection 1B and 1C, we are going to insert after the words $are in default of payment, which, Madam Speaker, means that it is a fine that is being imposed, but in the failure to pay a fine, then there is a alternative of an imposition of an imprisonment. So it's not an imprisonment that is intended, it is a fine. But in default of payment of a fine, it is a term of imprisonment. And Madam Speaker, in subsection 2, the following subsection, after subsection 2, subsection 3, for the purposes of the Criminal Records, Court Rehabilitation of Offenders, Close Quotation Act, an offense under subsections 1A, 1B, or C, or section 10.5 shall not form part of the criminal record of the offender. What this means, Madam Chairman, as I said in the debate, is that these offenses are not meant to impose or to have offenders having a criminal record. These are really deterrent criminal, quasi-criminal offenses. So what this subsection does is to ensure that in the parish courts, the persons who are fined do not have a criminal record.
The bill also encourages dog owners to keep their dogs under control using restraints such as a muzzle or a leash. The passage of the bill comes days after a 5-year-old boy was mauled by a pack of neighborhood dogs in St. Anne. The bill, which replaces the Dogs Liabilities for Injury Act of 1877, will now proceed to the Senate. The first week of the pilot program to resume face-to-face schooling has reportedly been successful. Minister of Education, Youth and Information Favour Williams gave an update in Parliament on Tuesday.
The pilot was launched to evaluate the possibility of students going back to classrooms despite the COVID-19 pandemic. Education Minister Favour Williams says only 11 grade students were allowed to attend the participating high schools, while participating primary schools allowed students from across the board. Observers reported a low attendance in primary schools.
One such primary school that has a student population of 128 was reported to have 8 students last Thursday and 28 on Wednesday. Attendance may have been affected by the rain as it rained throughout the day. Additionally, over the period, 1,115 students were noted to be in attendance, with 52% of that number representing boys and 48% representing girls. I believe that this was a one-day tally of students.
Observers also reported on entry management.
The overall management of the entry process was deemed to have been satisfactorily managed by the schools in keeping with protocols for preventing transmission of COVID-19. The entry points were reported as adequately staffed and efficiently operated. Students were observed in queues that were adequately spaced at the entry point and wearing their masks to cover both nose and mouth. In those schools with low turnout, there was no need for queuing up, as the few students who turned up came in at different times. In one school, screening activities were moved onto the compound because of the rain. However, it was done in a sheltered, open location before students were permitted to move into the classroom. It is noted as a matter of concern in 2 schools that the infrared thermometer was being pointed towards the forehead of children. Other schools were observed to have efficient use of the thermometer. The time elapsed between arrival and entry was commended in 14 of the schools by the observers who shared their satisfaction in this regards. With regards to mask wearing, 5 of 14 schools had students turning up without masks. An appropriate response was given as students were issued masks, and screening and entry process was subsequently observed. But I want to ask parents to come on board with us and ensure that the students leave home with a mask.
Minister Williams says management during classes was also deemed satisfactory.
Sanitization was done upon entry and re-entry in the classroom spaces, and more specifically on return trips from the restroom.
The Education Minister says COVID-19 guidelines were also up to standard during breaks.
The methods used varied from staggered break and lunch sessions at the concessionaire shop or canteen to students being served in their classroom space.
The weakest area observed was schools' management of emergencies.
However, no management protocols were outlined for the isolation room in 6 schools, and observers in 1 school highlighted that the protocols outlined in that particular school was dissatisfying. The ministry has already taken steps to engage the Ministry of Health and Wellness on this score.
The Education Minister says a more comprehensive update will be provided at the end of the pilot on November 20. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Simone Absalom.
The Bank of Jamaica has announced that it will be holding its policy interest rate at 0.05% per annum. Gabriel Thompson gives us the details of this and other key market indicators in this edition of the Business Report.
The Bank of Jamaica BOJ on Tuesday announced its decision to hold the policy interest rate unchanged at 0.5% per annum. The policy interest rate is offered to deposit-taking institutions on overnight placements with the BOJ. Monetary policy decisions taken by the central bank are aimed at ensuring that the annual increase in the prices of consumer goods and services remains within the bank's inflation target range of 4% to 6%. In a statement, the BOJ said Tuesday's decision to hold the policy rate unchanged reflects its assessment that while inflation will be temporarily elevated over the next 4 to 5 months, it will remain within target over the next 2 years. This revised inflation outlook is influenced by the impact of recent flood rains on domestic agricultural supplies over the near term, as well as the ongoing impact on the economy of the coronavirus pandemic. In Tuesday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index advanced by 1,120 points to close at under 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 74 stocks, of which 25 advanced, 31 declined, and 18 traded firm. The Junior Market Index advanced by 11 points to close at under 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica, Access Financial Services, and Berger Paints Jamaica. Stocks declined for 1834 Investments Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company, and Barita Investments Limited. Trading firm were Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited, Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited, and Siboney Group Limited. Mailpack Group Limited was the volume leader with 9.3 million units, followed by QWI Investments Limited with 2.3 million units, and Trans Jamaican Highway Limited with 1.8 million units. Now for the foreign exchange. The US dollar on Tuesday, November 10, ended trading at $149.08. The Canadian dollar sold for an average $114.61. The pound sterling traded for $196.39, and the euro ended trading at $178.84. Benchmark Brent oil rose to a more than 2-month high above $45 a barrel on Wednesday on hopes of an effective COVID-19 vaccine and an industry report showing U.S. crude inventories fell more than expected. Brent crude futures gained $1.41 to $45.02 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures also added $1.41 to settle at $42.77 a barrel. And that does it for this edition of the Business Report on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
This week on Living Healthy, our resident dental expert, Dr. Los Miles, tells us how good oral health can make you look 10 years younger.
Hi, I'm HD. Welcome to another episode of HD's Jazz. We're on a journey to appreciating the value of good oral health. So where does Stop 2 take us? Come see for yourself. To look 10 years younger, you have to start with the basics, brushing and flossing. That's what's going to ensure that you have a firm foundation. You want your gums and the bone underneath to be healthy, because unhealthy bone means lack of bone support, and that means you lose your teeth prematurely. Aging. Even if you don't lose your teeth immediately, your teeth start to look longer and more spaces develop between your teeth. Aging. So, brushing and flossing automatically gives you a more youthful look. Do you know that your teeth get a little darker as you age? So, whitening can do a little something for you. Over-the-counter things like whitening strips or so are good, but if you need a little more, a prescription strength whitening agent in a dental office might just be the trick. What about those teeth that don't look quite positioned well? Sometimes we can put on crowns and veneers to reshape the teeth, or if it's more involved, you might need orthodontic treatment, going to the dental specialist who changes the alignment of your teeth. Over time, if you're clenching and grinding, you can really wear down your teeth. And shorter teeth means that your mouth sags and you age. So, correcting the bite, opening up that vertical dimension creates a very youthful appearance, and you don't look as if your mouth is mashed. Do you know that missing teeth make your cheeks sag? Putting in dentures or implants or bridges, any of those tooth replacement methods that we've spoken about before, see the link. You can get more details on them. Any of those things can help to support your cheekbones and enhance your smile. There's a lot that you can do to look younger. Start with the basics, have a good evaluation, see what needs to be done, and then step out looking 10 years younger. So the key to looking 10 years younger, regaining that youthful look, start with a healthy smile. Healthy gums and teeth look fabulous. If they're a little dingy, you can get them whitened. If they're malpositioned or crooked, orthodontics can straighten them up, or you can cover them and create a whole new look with veneers and crowns. Missing spaces? Fill out those cheeks with your implants and your bridges. Listen, I'm going to take you to that secret place. It's right. I'll tell you the next time. I'll catch you next time on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and our LFD website. See you next time on HD's Jazz. On HD's Jazz, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and our LFD website. I have to do that over. Yeah, because I was distracted.
In regional news, a group of children in the Cool Acres Haitian village in the Bahamas are keeping up with their virtual classes thanks to a member of their community. Jared Higgs reports.
Shade of a small ganap tree, a group of children attend their virtual lessons. Government mandates that children attend school virtually due to the COVID-19 pandemic. These children are between the ages of 6 and 13 and are all of Haitian descent. Their makeshift school setting is located in the Cool Acres Haitian village.
With the parents, they really want their child to succeed because they come from a lesser background.
The community school started when 32-year-old Linda Ambrister, also of Haitian descent and currently furloughed from her job, kept getting requests for help from other parents in her community. The switch to virtual learning wasn't easy for some, as technology often involves basic troubleshooting.
The idea was to assist the children as best as possible with internet connection, with charging their devices, and helping them to connect with their teachers as well.
The children start logging into their classrooms just after 9 a.m., and Ambrister helps them to get online. Now, most of them prefer in-person classes, but the virtual learning allows them to keep up with their education. 10-year-old Evanisha Innocent wants to be a teacher when she gets older, so it's no wonder she misses the classroom.
I miss talking with my friends, talking with my teachers. I miss having work to do.
Ambrister says money isn't the motivation and charges $5 per day. There are currently 15 kids who come to her, including on weekends for homework help. The married mother of two explained why she wants to help the kids in her community.
When I was growing up, I didn't have that assistance. Being of Haitian descent, it was just me learning and going to the library and doing my own schoolwork. And in order for me to be able to pass down some of my knowledge, I decided to open up my doors to help the children.
In sports, we kick off with football. Yesterday, we reported that Jamaica's Reggae Boys were seeking redemption in their second international friendly against Saudi Arabia. Well, they got it. The boys beat their hosts 2-1 in the second of two friendlies. In the first match, which was played last Saturday, the Saudis dropped the boys 3-0. In Tuesday's rematch, the Saudis surged to the lead in the 29th minute, courtesy of Abdullah Al-Hamad Dan. But strikes from Daniel Johnson and Javon East sealed the deal for the Reggae Boys. And over to cricket. West Indies head coach Phil Simmons says the two main focus areas for the regional team is consistency in the bowling and game awareness. This as they get ready to face New Zealand in their 3 T20s and 2 test matches. We get more in this Newsroom Guyana report.
Things have been good. It's few days been cold, but most of the days been nice and warm, and you know, when it's warm, West Indies team tend to thrive. So they've been very good. They've been enjoying it.
What are some of the areas that you've been stressing within the training?
I think the big areas are consistency, especially in the bowling, and understanding situations, especially in the batting. We've had situations where we're in control of games and people give away their wickets. So you know, things like that are the main things we're concentrating on now.
In your opinion, how is the team coming together as a unit with both squads operating at the same time and having the reserves available?
Well, it's been great. Everybody's been looking to do what's necessary and working hard and looking to make sure that they're doing everything for the team right now, and that's been great.
Specifically about the reserves, how beneficial do you think this tour will be to them?
It's very beneficial to all of them because they see what it's like to be a part of a West Indies tour, they see what it's like to train with West Indies team, and they work, and we work with them also, even though they're reserves, as to improve their game.
With the T20 players coming out of quarantine the day of match 1, do you think that's a significant disadvantage for our team?
Well, they're not coming out there on match 1, they're coming out the day before match 1. And I think with them practicing and getting good facilities like we know there is for them to practice, I think everybody will be ready.
And what would be your message to the fans rallying behind the men in maroon back in the Caribbean?
Well, to continue rallying behind us because we're working hard to try and bring joy and bring a smile on everyone's face from the Caribbean and to Caribbean people all around the world. So keep backing us.
And that's our package. Join us again tomorrow, same time, same place for more news and sports right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.